Well, welcome back to Whole Bible Study with Theology. I'm honored that you're walking through the scriptures with me today. We've been watching Moses wrestle with his calling, question his identity, and finally step out in obedience to God's command. At this point in the story, Moses and Aaron are now in Egypt, ready to confront Pharaoh for the very first time. If you're just joining us, everything up until now has been preparation, signs from God, personal transformation, and covenant renewal. But now the real confrontation begins. Let's read Exodus chapter 5 together. Exodus chapter 5 from the NIV version. Afterward, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness. Pharaoh said, Who is the Lord that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go. Then they said, The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Now let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, or he may strike us with plagues or with the sword. But the king of Egypt said, Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? Get back to your work. Then Pharaoh said, Look, the people of the land are now numerous, and you are stopping them from working. The same day, Pharaoh gave this order to the slave drivers and the overseers in charge of the people. You are no longer to supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw. But require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They are lazy. That is why they are crying out. Let us go and sacrifice to our God. Make the work harder for them, for the people, so that they keep working and pay no attention to lies. Then the slave drivers and the overseers went out and said to the people, This is what Pharaoh says, I will not give you any more straw. Go and get your own straw, whether you can find it, but your work will not be reduced at all. So the people scattered over Egypt to gather stubble and use for straw. The slave drivers kept pressing them, saying, Complete the work required for you each day, just as when you had straw. And Pharaoh's slave drivers beat the Israelite overseers they had appointed, demanding, Why haven't you met your quota of bricks yesterday and today and before? Then the Israelite overseers went and appealed to Pharaoh, Why have you treated your servants this way? Your servants are given no straw, yet we're told, Make bricks. Your servants are being beaten, but the fault is your own people. Pharaoh said, Lazy, that's what you are. Lazy, that is what you keep saying. Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord. Now get to work. You will not be given any straw, yet you must produce your full quota of bricks. The Israelite overseers realized that they were in trouble when they were told, You are not to reduce the number of bricks required for you each day. When they left Pharaoh, they found Moses and Aaron waiting to meet them. And they said, May the Lord look on you and judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials, and have put a sword in their hand to kill us. Moses returned to the Lord and said, Why, Lord? Why have you brought trouble on this people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak your name, he has brought trouble to this land, to this people, and you have not rescued your people at all. Now for the deep dive for Exodus 5. Exodus 5 marks the first major collision between divine authority and imperial power in the biblical narrative. Here, Moses and Aaron confront Pharaoh in the name of Yahweh, but instead of liberation, their request ignites oppression. This is a chapter that lays bare the reality that obedience to God does not always lead to immediate success. Often it brings resistance. In verse 1, Moses and Aaron deliver God's commandment, let my people go, so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness. This wasn't a full emancipation request, at least not on the surface. The Hebrew phrase Hagbad Midbar, festival in the wilderness, implies a pilgrimage feast, perhaps akin to later celebrations like Passover or Sukkot. But Pharaoh's reply in verse 2 is chilling. It is chilling in its theological weight. Who is Yahweh that I should obey him? This question isn't just defiance, it's identity warfare. Pharaoh is claiming ignorance of Israel's God and asserting his own divine status. In Egyptian culture, the Pharaoh was considered the son of Ra, the living God. To obey another god would be not only sacrilegious, but a political threat. This first exchange reveals the fundamental biblical tension, the kingdom of God versus the empires of men. God is not simply rescuing slaves. He is challenging a system of total human domination that makes Exodus not just a personal story, but a cosmic one. Pharaoh's response escalates to cruelty. He increases Israel's labor without reducing the quota. This isn't arbitrary. Brickmaking was essential to Egyptian monument building. We have inscriptions and tomb paintings from the New Kingdom era, circa 1550 to 1070 BCE. That depict Semitic laborers making bricks, kneeling beside mixing pits, carrying straw, and stacking finished products. The command to make bricks without straw is historically plausible, and it wasn't just difficult, it was sabotage. Straw was critical for cohesion and drying. Without it, the process became 10 times harder. This type of tactic was common in ancient regimes. Increase workload, lower morale, fracture solidarity. Pharaoh's speech in verse 8, "They are lazy," is a textbook case of propaganda. By dehumanizing the Israelites and labeling their worship as laziness, he's justifying oppression. We also see here the first cracks in Israel's unity. Israelite foremen, likely elders or middle managers appointed by Egyptian system, go to Pharaoh to protest in verse 15. When they are rebuffed, they turn on Moses and Aaron, blaming them for a worsening situation in verse 21. This moment sets up a reoccurring theme throughout the wilderness journey, an internal dissent in the face of external pressure. The final verses bring us into Moses' heart. His prayer in verses 22 to 23 is raw, emotional, and deeply human. "Why have you brought trouble on this people? Is this why you sent me?" The Hebrew word used for trouble is ra'ah, often translated as evil or harm. Moses is not sugarcoating the situation, and in the next chapter, God will respond. But for now, this is the moment of lament. This is what faithful doubt looks like: questioning with relationship, wrestling with covenant. This chapter then becomes a theological hinge. It reminds us that deliverance often gets worse before it gets better, that God's plan may provoke conflict before it brings peace, that confronting systems of injustice will expose the cost before it reveals the reward. Historically, this also shows how deeply entrenched Egypt's economic dependence on slavery was. Pharaoh wasn't simply refusing out of pride. He had material reasons to resist. To lose a massive labor force would destabilize his economy and challenge his divine image. In the Exodus narrative, in this light, becomes an economic and spiritual revolution. Now for some closing reflections. What strikes me most here is Moses' vulnerability. He obeyed God. He stepped out in faith, and yet things got worse, not better. That resonates deeply with me, maybe with you too. These are times when we follow God and face more resistance, more confusion, more heartache than before. And like Moses, we wonder, Lord, is this what you sent for me? But here's the truth. God doesn't abandon us in the middle of the story. Just because it hurts now doesn't mean he's not working. And just because people turn on us or things fall apart doesn't mean we've misheard his call. Sometimes it means we're right where we need to be. So if you're in a place of pressure or pain or backlash after obedience, hold fast. This is part of the pattern. The world doesn't yield easily when God's people rise up, but the story isn't over, and we serve a God who hears the cries of the oppressed and walks with his people through every fire. If this chapter stirred something in you, or if you saw something I didn't touch on, I'd love for you to drop it in the comments. We're in this together. Let's keep learning, wrestling, and walking forward in faith. I'll see you in the next chapter.